A fake politician who masks destructive ideas under the guise of empathy. At a 2017 town hall, he implied 10-year-old boys should be able to invade girls' bathrooms because
Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, I think I could kick most of their ass.
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser, you know, I mean, the guy's a loser.
Okay, so picture this. It all started when things got way out of hand in politics, like totally off the rails. Gutfeld and Donald Trump joined forces. Yep, that wild team went after Tim Walz, like it was some juicy summer drama. Walz tried to keep cool with his speeches, but he ended up twisting and turning, trying to escape the savage burns and ego blasts. And why is Minnesota all over the news now? Let's just say it's messier than a bad karaoke night.
Tim Walz continues to be criticized for embellishing his rank and service. After it came out over the weekend, he once claimed to be an official bikini inspector. Walz's direct superior in the National Guard says Walz knew his unit was about to deploy to Iraq and went behind the back of his superior officer to resign. When reached for comment, Walz yelled, "Hey, look over there," and then ran away.
I think I would have won, Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran, the real governor, not the governor from Minnesota, he's a sick puppy, that guy. That poor guy, I feel sorry for him. But they made a bad choice with him.
So Tim Walz out here acting like being a governor means being a full-time TV star. Like seriously, he's more into camera time than fixing stuff, and every time something goes wrong, he blames random things like the sun gravity or even Gutfeld. He's running Minnesota like one of those video games where everything goes wrong and there's no way to fix it. And his policies? Yeah, they hit harder than potholes and mess up everything in their path.
With Walz, it's hard to even bring him up. He has a resting snitch face. You know? He forfeited his man card during COVID and the riots. And you're right. And also, at that diner, of course, he left early. So don't you find it weird that for a terrifying threat to democracy that Trump is, not a single interviewer in his history has approached him with trepidation.
Minnesota under Walz feels like some old frozen food, forgotten in the fridge. Boring, outdated, and kinda scary. But he's still out here serving it with new excuses while Gutfeld throws wild sarcasm and Trump crashes in like a monster truck. And together they roasted him like he's just a walking ad trying to stay relevant.
To make it more difficult, specifically to women, trying to make it more difficult for women to be able to vote. We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote.
Wait, so Trump is making it more difficult for women to vote? How so? Math problems? But it's further proof that the most dangerous thing for a leftist is a follow-up question, which is why you never hear it.
Walz made it way too easy for Gutfeld to go in, like seriously. The jokes just wrote themselves. This is the same guy who shut the whole state down so hard during the pandemic, even the Wi-Fi wanted to escape, and after all that control, you'd think he'd actually fix something. But nope, roads still look like craters, taxes are sky high, and crime got so bad Minneapolis turned into a real-life GTA game, but even glitchier and more out of control.
I'm especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
Dude. You're an old white guy. And you're right, you are a huge disappointment. I guess hating himself is the first thing he's nailed correctly.
So his big fix for all this chaos is throwing more money at useless groups and endless meetings like he's trying to patch up a broken pipe with tape instead of tools. His whole plan is just delay everything and act like the mess will magically clean itself while he takes credit for doing nothing.
Are people misreading Tim's odd greeting? The man of the hour, Tim Walz, brings us our second video of the day, and he's got a very weird way of greeting his wife of 30 years. Roll it.
Yeah.
I want to see this in slow motion. You'll see Walz extends his hand to his wife. She grabs it. They shake. He pulls her close and then goes in for that non-friction hug, all the while still shaking her hand. I wish there was a word to describe that. Oh, yeah, weird.
Then out of nowhere, Trump jumps in with his wild energy, takes one look at Walz and laughs like he just won a prize for doing nothing, and yeah, Trump's got his own chaos. But next to Walz, he looks like a hero in a MAGA hat. At least he takes action, even if it's loud and messy, while Walz just talks like a bored substitute teacher and does nothing. People and businesses are leaving Minnesota so fast, it's like a reverse Oregon Trail, and instead of dysentery, they're losing everything to these wild rules. Even small businesses get hit hard. One guy just wanted to sell lemonade and ended up buried in permits and paperwork and in schools. Instead of fixing learning walls, made it all about politics where kids skip math but have to pass gender quizzes, and now everyone's just more confused.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz.
So while Walz keeps fumbling through his mess, Trump just watches with that smirk like he's seen this show before. And Gutfeld, well, he's living his best life, making Walz the punchline of every joke, saying it's like a squirrel driving a forklift, funny till stuff breaks and Walz keeps saying one thing, then doing the opposite, like pushing green rules, then jumping in a gas guzzler or backing workers until they ask for real change, then he's gone. And during COVID, he made bars close at 10, like the virus has a bedtime, and kept liquor stores open but shut gyms, which says everything about how backwards his health rules really were.
On Minnesota, there were a lot of horrific details that came out today about the suspect who's been charged there. Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call him and say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. So I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
So, wait, you lost because you weren't woke enough? That's like telling Joy Behar she's not eating enough Doritos. That's like Jasmine Crockett saying, I gotta black this up.
Walz keeps acting like everything's fine while the whole place is falling apart. Whenever crime gets mentioned, he starts talking about community like he's pitching yoga to cops and folks are downloading crime apps like they're the new Netflix. His economy plan is just letting things rot while raising taxes on anyone who can still pay rent. Gutfeld's grilling him like, it's July 4th and Walz showed up in an I banned fireworks shirt. Even Trump and Gutfeld agree they don't get how this guy still has a job. And when people call him out, he just throws more money or drops some slogan like posters can fix public safety. And when Minneapolis tried to scrap the police walls, stayed silent like a nervous dad. And now crime's up, confusion's everywhere, and it's starting to feel more like Gotham than Minnesota.
The tampon king gets back in the ring. I speak of former VP nominee Tim Walz. He joined Beto O'Rourke at a Texas town hall last night, and the estrogen levels were enough to give Chuck Norris menstrual cramps. I wonder, is our strength our diversity?
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years.
Every time Gutfeld roasts Walz, it feels like he's saying what everyone's been thinking, that this guy couldn't run a sock drawer, let alone a whole state. And Trump being Trump jumps in, pointing out every flop, every mess, and even his hair in Walz always has that look like he's pretending to know what's going on while secretly Googling how to govern. And his budget just kept growing with money flying into useless projects and endless studies that gave people nothing but bills and broken promises. Even Trump was confused, like, is this guy trying to bankrupt the place? Walz hears feedback, tosses it out, then blames others. And when he promised bold action on roads, he just hired folks to make slideshows while the highway started looking like a Mad Max movie.
Quote, as a teacher, my number one responsibility in the classroom is the safety, security, and belongingness of every single child in that room. These are children my son's age, a 4th grader, a 10-year-old who just wants to go to the bathroom. And their identity is they are male or female and they just go in that bathroom and use it. End quote. Sounds so folksy, you know? Belongingness. Yeah, they'll be belonging in therapy with this guy at the helm.
Walz went after landlords like he was saving the day, but his rent control plan just made everything worse. Now small landlords are walking away, big ones are raising rents, and renters are stuck with no answers. And his big idea is another task force, which really just means more talking, less doing. Trump and Gutfeld didn't even need to try. The disaster played out all by itself. Gutfeld joked that Walz runs things with PowerPoints and pure confusion, and when it comes to transportation, it's all delay and disaster, he promised new trains but forgot to make sure they actually show up. And when people ask what he's proud of, he points to some random climate goal while the streets fall apart right behind him.
So this is Governor Walz. There he is. Do you know we're the same age? I know. I know. He looks like the founder of a law firm specializing in personal injury. He looks like the guy at church who remarries 1 month after his wife mysteriously passes away. He looks like the high school football coach who made sure everyone showered after practice.
Tim Walz has turned running a state into a full-blown comedy show where he's the main act, the scriptwriter, and the confused audience all at once. And honestly, at this rate, someone's gonna give him a late-night slot called Clueless in the Capitol where there's no guests, no budget, and definitely no clue. Just him rambling with a mic and a pile of dusty papers from 2019 that he still hasn't read. And every time he steps up, you think, okay, maybe this time it'll make sense. But nope, he drops another big visionary move that somehow takes things even further back. His climate plans look like they came from a Pinterest board full of feel-good fluff paper straws and solar panels that only work when the moon is out. Meanwhile, people in rural areas are still driving almost an hour just to find a grocery store that hasn't been crushed by taxes. Gutfeld couldn't stop laughing because Walz somehow took one of the most naturally gifted states and managed to run it like a group project where no one showed up. Even Trump was shaking his head. Watching Walz try to explain economic recovery with the confidence of a guy who just learned what GDP means. Every speech sounds like it was copy-pasted from a cereal box mixed with an inspirational poster. And while the whole state struggles, he's still up there flipping PowerPoint slides like that's gonna fix anything, asking for claps like a magician who forgot the trick, dropped the rabbit, and sawed his own arm off. And if you're wondering what's working under his rule, well, at least the Wi-Fi is strong while everything else burns around him.